A woman suddenly looked up and froze. There, high in the sky, someone was standing. At first, she thought her eyes were playing tricks on her. But when she looked again, she realized it was real. A crazy man was walking on a steel wire stretched between the rooftops of the World Trade Center. 500 meters below him, the city looked like a toy set. The wind whipped against his body, shaking his feet, and even the long balance pole in his hands trembled. But he didn't panic. Instead, he smiled. He had no safety gear, no harness. If his foot slipped even once, he'd fall to his death in seconds. Down below, a crowd began to gather, necks stretched upward, eyes locked on the madman in the sky. He was already halfway across, close to the fixed clip that held the wire, but then he noticed something terrifying. The clip had been attached the wrong way. One wrong step, and it would all be over. He paused for a moment, breathing hard, his heart pounding. Then he gritted his teeth and stepped forward anyway. His right foot found balance, then his left. Slowly, the tension on his face melted into calm, and then he grinned. This wasn't enough of a challenge for him. Step by step felt too slow, so he began to move faster, taking bigger strides, until suddenly he was running toward the South Tower. The crowd gasped. He walked that thin wire as if it were solid ground. Then, as if daring fate itself, he tried something even crazier. He slid his injured right leg back. Blood soaked through his shoe. His teeth clenched in pain, but he still lowered himself to one knee. Now he was kneeling, hundreds of meters above the ground. The audience below was stunned into silence. A moment later, he rose again, looking down at the crowd with quiet satisfaction. Then, out of nowhere, two police officers appeared on the rooftop. Without saying a word, they pulled out handcuffs and shouted for him to come down. Seeing them, the man started to back away slowly, then stopped. A devilish smile crept across his face. He lifted the pole high above his head, and before anyone could react, he turned it into a magnificent performance, his own rebellion in the sky. The officers froze in disbelief. Then, he returned to the most dangerous spot on the wire. The scariest thing about walking the wire is looking down, and right there, he bent his knees and knelt again. With hundreds watching, he slowly spread his arms wide and leaned backward, dangling in midair, suspended above the city, risking his life just to feel free. Down below, everyone held their breath. No one dared make a sound. Soon, more officers arrived from the South Tower. But the man, he was untouchable now. He picked up his pole and began to dance on the wire. The police shouted, ordering him to stop, but he didn't even look their way. He turned and walked toward the North Tower instead. The cops glared at him from both ends. It made him laugh. He tossed his balance pole onto the wire and struck a strange, bold pose, arms crossed, eyes locked on the officers. The wind grew stronger, shaking his injured leg, but he stood there, balanced perfectly on one foot. 500 meters below, the streets were packed with people, all staring, all cheering. Then, dark clouds began to roll in. Rain was coming. He decided it was time to go back, but just then, a bolt in the lock snapped. His foot slipped. He barely caught himself from falling. Gasps erupted from the crowd below. Screams echoed through the city. A helicopter appeared beside the towers, its loudspeaker urging him to get down immediately. The cold wind grew fiercer. His injured leg was numb, blood dripping steadily down his shoe. One mistake now, and it would be over. He clenched his jaw and began inching backward, each step trembling, each breath sharp. It was like dancing on the edge of a blade. The entire crowd below seemed frozen, not even breathing. Finally, he reached the edge of the tower. It looked like he was safe, but then his leg started shaking uncontrollably. The wire groaned with a loud crack. Everyone's heart stopped, and then, miraculously, his foot steadied. He looked up, smiled mischievously at the police, and tossed the balance pole forward, bowing gracefully as if the whole thing had been a performance. The officers rushed in and handcuffed him. They led him away, but he didn't care, because down below, the entire city was cheering his name, applauding the madman who dared to walk in the sky.